How would we know? Is this asking the chat? I would love to do some talking. I will talk about the cup of tea that I've made that I'm about to drink. I am caffeinating at the end of a day where I was woken at 5 o'clock by my son saying, "Is it time to get up now?" in a way that was phrased as a question, but it was not a question. So I'm flagging a little bit. Cool. Do you want me to dictate for you? I can relay what you're saying. Okay, that was Ben trying to introduce himself and now reverting to fixing audio instead. So while I won't do Ben's introduction for him, I'll say hello. I'm your special guest today. My name is Neil Studd. You won't have found this about this on my social streams because I'm not really on social streams at the moment. So I'm as surprised as you are. It's my first time in the wild for a few months. I moved house at Christmas, and this is my first time streaming from a new setup. So that's why there are weird shadows of my head on the ceiling and lots of things I need to sort out in this room. Like I need to get this proper. But we're here to do some testing of a thing that I have built. Ben, do you think you've got some audio back now?
I can use my audio in two places at once. Let's see if this will work. Hello, hello. Can you still hear me, Neil?
I can.
Okay, we'll see if anyone on the call can hear us. I think we have one viewer, and I think I know who it is.
Have we checked that they're not deaf?
Well, they can hear you, Neil, so let's hope
Okay.
not. I think that might be our good friend. Let me just check. Yes, I think it might be good friend James Wardley on the call.
Uh-huh.
Hear me, but a bit quiet. Okay, well, I can fix. That's probably going to be very loud now. I hope if that's too loud, let me know. I've turned that up massively. Okay, let's give this a go. So, yes. Hi. If anyone else is watching this back who isn't James, I'm Ben, and we're going to be giving this a go. We're testing Neil's project Retros Against Mundanity, which is an interesting concept. And before we go into figuring out exactly how we're going to test it, what I'd really like to do is get a little bit more of an idea what it is supposed to be and a bit of an idea what the more important things we think might be to test. So let's taking a step back rather than jumping straight into the guts and the gore. Let's do that nice moment of analysis thing.
Yeah, planning will never let you down. That's a great idea. Dare I try to share my screen through Jitsi? Do we think that's a thing that might work?
Let's give it a go. If it doesn't
Yeah.
work, I have ways to share things, but then you might not see what I'm doing, even if everyone else does. So give it a go, Neil.
Let me see if I share this window here. Ben, do you see a LinkedIn page?
Yes, I do.
And then I guess we'll see whether anyone on the chat also sees it. I'll just do a little bit of background. My role here today is going to be, while my background is in testing, the hats that I'm wearing today are product owner, as the person who built and designed this website, and also the developer, because yeah, I also coded it to an extent. I will say, I will caveat it by saying I wrote very little of this code. I think this is going to prove to be an interesting discussion point. I did this as an exercise in how far can I get with just ChatGPT and Copilot, and the answer is, as you may have seen if you've experimented yourself, it gets you a lot of the way, but it makes a lot of silly mistakes because it can't understand contexts. So that the development process was a lot of, please do this for me deploying it, going, no, that was not quite right. Can you change that to do that and that and that, and eventually dialing it in. But what it means is it's got, as we'll see in a minute, it's got quite a tight happy path. But if you go anywhere off the happy path, ChatGPT hasn't been told to write validations or think about error cases. So there's going to be I hope, loads of really interesting ways that we can break this. But I will explain what it is very quickly. I posted this LinkedIn post in the middle of 2020, a busy year for all of us, while we were suffering through one of the earlier lockdowns. The team that I was working in was doing weekly retrospectives at the end of our sprints, and getting very bored of it. And it was those, what went well, what didn't go wrong, what should we do better next time, and there's just engagement was just really down. Not just because being on Zoom all day which was not a fun thing to do, but we looked at how can we shake things up. And it was my turn to run a retro one week, and I came up with this idea that I would definitely not steal from Cards Against Humanity. There is some visual inspiration certainly in the design, but I said, hey, let's mix things up again. Let's just do things a bit differently. Rather than having these dry boards that we throw post-its on, let's do it a bit like a complete the sentence kind of game. And I built it simply as a PowerPoint deck. And as you'll see on this page, the idea is I solicited from my team, please send us some your thoughts on answers to the following questions. This is obviously fake data, but here in the early days of lockdown, something I wish I could fix about remote working, and having people answer specific prompts. And we got some really, really valuable, actionable feedback from the team about how their days are actually going. Plus, it was a bit more fun. I did it very, very fast and loose. I literally told people to DM me their answers. I then threw them into a PowerPoint template. The fonts aren't here, but I literally put them into some slides, and we demoed it from here. And then recently I was looking for an idea of a web project I could build, and I thought this would be a really nice thing to build a web-based version of. And so a website that is currently live right now, that Ben's going to look at now, is the Retros Against Mundanity web app, putting the fun into dysfunctional. There are two major operating modes here. Number one, which I guess is where we're going to start, is the experience as someone who's coming in to take part in a retro and to actually fill out this form. So on the homepage, there's a link to try the demo. And you can see there are some question cards here. If we drill into any of these, we'll be able to see, you can flip over the cards and see how people answered the questions. But in terms of ways that you can interact with the front end as a user, there's this very little link here that says complete this form. So this is going to be your first port of call. The first way things could easily break is you choosing to put in your name, or whatever name you choose to go by, answer some questions, and then see them added to the stack of cards on the homepage. So that's the first way we can operate. There may well be enough for us there for the session. However, that sort of path has been very well walked. I've used this internally at my company on a number of retros now, so people have been filling this out. So a lot of the easy bugs have maybe been found. If you really want a challenge, there is an admin area that I can give you the admin login to, which is all where you can create a new board, add new questions. That has had no testing or protection whatsoever because I'm the only one who uses it. So if you get to the point of let's see if we can nuke this thing, you're more than welcome to do that. Depending on how things go, we can also dive into the code. I can show you, we could do some live coding. We can look at the live logs as they go through. We could take it any direction you like. But my mission is, I would like to make this watertight enough that I'm happy to start promoting this to people and say, hey, use this for your retros. There are some features I still need to add, like the ability to create your own boards. But I'd like the nuts and bolts to be, I'd like to be happy with how that's working before I circulate it too far.
Very, very cool, Neil. This is a very interesting thing. So, that gives us a lot to go on. I also have the version I was looking at earlier. I've got a slightly different version you sent me with a special URL that I could perhaps not touch for the
Oh,
demo,
okay.
as
Yes,
not to share
I
the
should say
link.
the version I just walked you through is there's a link to a demo board on the homepage, which is one that is designed to be a sandbox. You can just play with it, but it will reset itself every hour. So I gave you a link to your own board, Ben. Yes, and that one won't reset itself, so you can do what you like, and it will stay there forever.
That's okay, but perhaps for the stream we can use the demo board, and that's
We can. I'm thinking about. I think it resets on the hour, but like if you're just throwing data and you don't mind losing it, that's fine.
oh no. In fact, we could set ourselves a note to check on the hour if it has reset correctly.
Good idea.
That wouldn't be a bad idea. I wonder if there's anything that we could do to make it fail to reset. I wonder what that's based on.
Well,
Immediately thinking deviously.
I could sabotage myself by saying that the way it resets is there is a cron job that runs like a something in the cloud that pings a URL, an unprotected URL that will reset it. Now, if you could discover that, you could reset the board whenever you liked. So I guess one way is I hope you can't find what that URL is. It might be fun to try and guess some URLs.
Okay, that's one thing we could do. Well, there are some tools for that. So I guess that really we've got a lot to go on there, but we have a lot to go on. So let's make a gentle start and figure out where we want to focus our time, not to be too distracted by too many fun things. So it sounds like you have two major classes of user. You have the person running a retrospective and people taking part in a retrospective. So two kind of classes of user.
Yeah, like I guess like an admin and a general user.
An admin general user.
We don't yet have any formal classification of users. Like I'd love to have like a user registration and a sign up so that you could create your own boards and have your own profiles and stuff. Nothing like that exists at all yet. Like if you've got a link to a board, you can
Yep.
just fill it out.
Right. Let me have a go. First of all, doing a screen share to see if I can just share the window. So let's give this a go and see if you can see that.
I can.
Okay. While you can see that, Neil, I'm going to see if I can just on the stream. Oh, because you can take your own view. No, not that. Let me see what I can do. I'm going to see if I can. What options do I have on Jitsi? So I'm quite new to Jitsi. Let's see if there's.
I love it. It scores points immediately for not being Zoom, but doing what Zoom does.
Oh yeah, there's some cool things going on here. Also, massive shout out just for the fact that it was free and incredibly easy to set up. So that is a very cool thing. There's probably some kind of way to pay them or donate to them. We'll see about that. But for today, the fact it was accessible is cool. I was just trying to figure out if I can unpin pin to stage. Can I pin a second thing to the stage? I'm just trying to pin me and you for our viewers. Pin to stage. Oh, I can pin both of us, but one at a time, and it takes the other one out. Okay,
Oh.
I'll keep this view where there's the thing in the middle, but the only problem with this view is I'm guessing that it's not very easy to see the actual software. So let me. You're sharing the screen. Yes, show what I'm sharing. Okay. Let's see if that's clear enough, and I can do some zooming in if that isn't easy enough to see on the stream. Is that?
I'm going to say I bet that zooming in does interesting things to the app that I have not tested for, and that's a good thing.
Oh, well, let's go straight for that then. So there are some accessibility standards for the amount you can zoom. So there are different accessibility points. I think at 200, 400, maybe even 800% zoom. So let's go to 200% zoom just to see what that looks like. So that's actually looking pretty nice. A shout out, by the way, this browser that I'm using is the Firefox Developer Edition. And there are some pretty cool things that we can have a look at on this browser, and we can totally install extensions if we need to, because I'm not currently using this browser for anything else. So we have options available to us. So 200% looks pretty good, actually.
I'm impressed at things like the font scaling, because getting like the text to stay inside those cards like that was a real pain, even for ChatGPT. Like trying to say to it, no, not quite like that, because there's a bit of thing that's wrapping, and then it would fix it, and then you check it in Firefox, and it hadn't
Yeah.
worked in Firefox. Like browser specific CSS is the thing I like least in web development.
So that I quite like that. That was pretty good. Let's see if we can go to 400%. So that's
Please.
400%. So we've got some wrapping at the top there. That works pretty well. This is starting to look less slick, but it's definitely working. Let's see what we've got. It's wrapping. There's a lot more scrolling. See, that still looks pretty... I mean, I'm not going to say usable, but if you needed to zoom that much, not too bad. Let's go all the way up to 800, see what we get. Oh no, 500 is the most Firefox is going to give me, which either means that's the most Firefox ever gives you, or there's some kind of scaling limit. I will show you in a moment what the scaling limit might look like, actually. If I do an inspect, sometimes in the head, in the meta, you see this here where it says viewport, content, device width, device scale. Okay, so that's good. We've not got anything that's giving us a maximum scale built in, so that's actually a good thing.
I've done the lightest possible touch with things like what they call breakpoints, which is how it scales when you certainly when you physically resize the browser, and that's how it makes it work moderately well on mobile. So like it's like again, I developed with my mobile phone alongside me, so it works reasonably well there. But I'm impressed with the zoom scaling, which isn't something I've tested.
That's pretty nice. Let's go back to, I think maybe 150 is quite comfortable for the stream, so let's leave it there for a moment. We can look at other things here. So one thing I always like to do is have a quick look at the console just to see if there are errors. I just like having it open just to see if there's anything going on there. At the moment, it's looking pretty clean, so that's nice. But we haven't done anything yet. So we have an about page. What does the about page look like? Let's go here. So that mentions your
That's the post I shared earlier.
the
Yeah,
LinkedIn post. Let's just check the link works. Opening a new tab. That looks like that worked just fine. We've got some formatting on the page. We can have a little check. So one thing that I'm quite a fan of is accessibility. One thing we can do is look at the accessibility tree on the page and look for errors, all issues. So here we go. So we have 2 issues from accessibility that are picked up. This is why I quite like this developer mode of Firefox, because there's some stuff you get here even more than the Chrome dev tools. Color and contrast for, so this bit at the top with the beta version, the clever bit you've added on top there, that doesn't meet WCAG standards.
yeah, white on the eye. I could see that being an issue. It's saying that like it evaluates it to 1.97 on the right. If you hover over it, is any chance the magic number is 2? Am I like really close?
Let's have a look what it says.
Says
Learn
learn
more.
more. Like
Let's learn
what's
more.
is there? What's the numeric? At least 3. I 4.5 for body text.
Yeah,
3 for okay. So it's significantly out, and I'd put no thought into that. And there's no reason why black on yellow wouldn't be better. But okay, some thought into that. Thank you.
that's cool. So that's one quite nice one there. I wonder what happens in the dark mode if that gets any better. No, that doesn't change at all. The bit at the top.
It was one of the quickest implemented dark modes ever. It's again ChatGPT written. It changes the background color and flips the font color. I had to make some custom changes because it made some things go a bit funky on the cards, because it flipped the cards when we wanted to keep the cards in the same. The question cards have a black background. The answer cards have a white background.
Yep.
But
It's not showing any additional contrast issues though, so the dark mode
on that
seems
page,
fine.
yeah.
I'm actually going to go back to light, because for once the light mode maybe I don't know, the dark mode's not too bad actually. Debatable, but it's fine either way. We can maybe switch between them to see.
I think I've tested it more with light mode. So again, if you're on the hunt for things, maybe leaving dark mode on will give you an added advantage.
Okay, let's leave dark mode on just to see what we get. Well, the first thing we can do is see if it persists across the page, because this is, so we're on the about page. You know what the first thing I'm actually going to say is, there's no obvious way back. from a usability point of view, maybe this link takes me back. Okay, so that link did take me back, so that's quite nice. I should close
That
the
link
DevTools for a
always
minute.
takes you to the current board that you are on. What it doesn't do is get you back to the site homepage, and there's no way of doing that yet at the moment without changing the URL. And I'm kind of aware of that. There is some funky thing that happens with the URLs there where I'll tell you what, I'll give you a clue. Open up local storage now, because there are things in there that may prove interesting.
Okay, let's take a
and
look.
that I know are opportunities for things to go wrong.
Okay, well, let's see if I can find local storage here as well. I haven't looked for application. I bet it's in there. No, it's not.
Storage, maybe?
Yeah, storage. So we've got a cookie. Interestingly, we have a cookie, but no cookie policy. Although I don't think the cookie has anything in it. Oh no, there are no cookies.
It's a good point. I'm under arrest in the EU already. Thank you, Ben. I probably do need to have a thing there. Sigh.
I'm not sure there's much in the cookie, though, is there? I can't see the detail of what the cookie actually is, which is interesting.
No, I don't think I'm expressly doing anything with it. I think local storage will have some things in.
Okay. Dark mode true. Okay, good. So dark mode true. That's fair. Current board slug. So we've got something there. So if I was to add some fun value, to add that there.
Reload the page now. The page that you're on.
So I didn't reload it. I clicked on the top, and I wonder if that's written over that again. And it has. So let's try that again. Some fun. And I'll
Yeah, and now look at what that link in the top left is doing.
So that still says demo.
Yep. But if you were to click that or hover over it,
it does still say demo. I wonder if my so there's two things that could be true here. One is that my editing of this didn't do anything. So
yeah.
Did this change? See, I did that change, but did it actually change anything? Current, so it says that's the current thing. It's not there.
Click on the. No, refresh is okay. Okay.
And then it refreshed fine, but maybe refresh just refreshes the URL. Maybe it doesn't.
Can you try changing it to did this change again? Like I know there's a hole in here somewhere. I'm just trying to remember where it is. Now click on the about page.
Okay. So that went just the general about page.
Yeah.
Now click on that one.
There we go.
There we go. Now we got it to break.
Yeah.
Find this board.
Well, you got it to find the edge case that I coded for.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you did. You said it.
Yeah, it does this thing where because I don't have a proper login method yet, it sets that local storage of which board you're looking at just to help with some of the navigation. I think it's a horrible shot. I can't remember why I did it that way. I want to get rid of it because it introduces that opportunity to break it. But but what you've got there is a little bit of visibility into what it's what it's doing on the inside. You've seen where dark mode is.
So I have now found a problem with zooming. I'm going to get rid of that for a moment, and that is this page doesn't scroll.
That's all there is on that homepage.
Yeah, but it still doesn't scroll when you zoom in. You can't see anything.
If it needs to scroll, it doesn't. That's not great.
Yeah, so this doesn't scroll.
That sounds like I've hard-coded it to not ever bother with scroll bars because I don't think you need them. But there are situations such as Zoom where you do need them. That's a really helpful bug.
So that's a good one. I wonder if we can do anything more fun with that one we've just found. I wonder if we can dig in. I wonder if it's interesting to dig into it further now we've found it. So that local storage one, could we do something more nefarious with it? So,
well, one thing we've seen is it does mirror the value into the URL at some points.
It does. So what if we actually went something like that, and then
you will need you need to click on the about link, because I think the thing we found is when you refresh the page, when you refresh the page, it checks what the Oh, it says /cards.
Cards. Okay, because I did go back a level.
Hmm.
So it did do the go back a level. Oh, and on this page, now we do get an error in the log. So this is an error page, but we did get a 404. Okay, but this is a 404 page, so that's okay. That's kind of nice, actually. I bet there's more we could do with
Yeah.
that, but I'm struggling to figure out what the more we could do with that is.
The fact that you've got it to say cards, or it's lifted that one cards out somewhere suggests it's disclosing some information in there that it maybe shouldn't be. And I suspect someone who knew what they were doing security wise could probably go print out some environment details or something. I don't know, but yeah.
Yeah, I'm interested now. And I guess we have one of those classic exploratory testing problems now, where do we leave it at that because now you know that's a problem, we've got the value from it, we move on, or do we dig harder to see if we could find something more interesting there? Do we go for the depth?
It's certainly the thing when it comes to bug reporting, and the acronym, is it RIMJAIA, where is it RIMJAIA, where one of the E stands for like
I
is it
don't think I've heard of that one.
expand or something? My acronyms are awful, but like when you find a bug, how do you make that into the worst possible version of that bug in such a way that the problem gets fixed?
So that you can advocate for it, right?
Mm.
And so you can understand the impact. It's a good point. Yeah, how like you might think it's no big deal, and then turns out it's possibly catastrophic.
Yeah.
Mostly harmless. That's what we're aiming for, right? Okay, now we know that's a thing, though. Because I don't. Do you have a clever idea on how we might push that further? Because if you don't,
I
perhaps we
know
can
that
move
I'm
on.
already intending to eradicate that feature where it stores the board URL and tracks it. Like that's going away when I implement authentication properly. So I would like to see you filling in some forms with values that aren't the sort of values that people always put in, because I think there's a lot of
Well, this is a
opportunity to
completeness
think.
form.
Yeah.
Ooh, the good thing about this is we could use some cheat sheets and use some extensions for this.
Okay.
Let's give it a go. So, let's find. Oh, there's a classic one. I think it's Bug Magnet.
Bug Magnet. Yeah, I recorded a video about Bug Magnet for the miniature testing site in, I want to say 2015. I think it's one of the first bits of content I ever did for miniature testing.
Right, I'm with you. Let's give this a go. Life happens, a minor interruption. So you're our expert on this tool then, Neil, so that's good.
Well, some 9 years ago I was an expert on it, but I know it well. It's a good one to wield.
It is a good one. Let's make sure it's actually loaded. Manage extension options. Let's make sure it actually can have permission. Let's refresh this page, see if the extension can be used now. Can't change data on this site. Why? I want to be able to change data on this site. How do we think? Aha! Does this have something we can turn on? Run on websites with restrictions. Yes, run on everything. Run it everywhere.
I have access to sites restricted by Mozilla. I hope my site isn't restricted by Mozilla, but okay.
I don't know. Well, I mean, maybe it isn't, but
yeah.
I'm just wondering why it wasn't.
If you just right click in one of those fields, does it not appear in the context menu? That's how it did it back in the day.
There we go. So it is. Okay. So
I will say I can't see the context menus on the screen share. I think it's one of these ones where the way it's implemented, if you just saw a menu, you wouldn't see it.
Yes, you're right. No, I can see a menu and you can't, which is a shame. I don't think I'm going to optimize for figuring out on the stream this first time. I think we'll take that one as I'll figure that out later. I know there's ways around that, but they probably mean sharing the full screen, and I'm not set up to do that at the moment. Okay.
To craft your own bad values.
So, commonly thought as invalid. Ooh, null. That's a good one. That's a great one. Let's go start with that. See if there's a null check. Although I'd like to be anonymous. That's an interesting choice. I'm just going to ask rather than go straight for it.
Yes.
Have you tested with multiple people who are anonymous to make sure it works multiply with anonymous people?
It does. The way it stores it in the database, you would not be able to distinguish like anonymous person one from anonymous person two. There would be a bucket of anonymous.
Okay, so that's interesting, and I wonder if that gives us anything. So let's figure out something here. So these get pushed back out to the user, don't they? So do we have any thing in here already for JavaScript reflection? If not, then I'm going to go straight for a cheat sheet. So I don't see one on there, so let me go straight for a cheat sheet. T. I think it's called heuristic cheat sheet. I think it's on this one. Test heuristic cheat sheet. This is the one. This is very cool. A lot of these are also in Bug Magnet, but there's some here that are not. Let's see if I can go straight for. Oops. Let's search the page. Let's go for JavaScript injection. I was just going to say the word.
Mhm.
Is there no example? I might have to go for the OWASP. OWASP JavaScript cheat sheet. Cross-site scripting prevention cheat sheet. This will be the one. Let's go for something like this.
This will be very interesting. This will be validating to what extent the backend framework that I built this with, which is Flask, which is a web app framework for Python. But this will test to what extent the default settings for that protects against this sort of thing, because I've done no special casing on this sort of thing whatsoever.
Okay, well, let's just see what that does first before we do anything else. So submit your answers. Okay, so which one was that? I guess we've got to reveal it.
Yeah.
How do I do that? Okay, so that rendered it beautifully without any particular worry whatsoever. It did not give me a JavaScript alert. I wonder if there's a more nefarious thing that we can do. In fact, what have we got here? So we do. Let's just try doing something else. Let's just try. Oh, where are we? Complete this form. And it doesn't remember who we were. Completing this form now starts us again from the beginning.
Yeah. Again, partly because there's no like user profile concept or anything yet. Like it doesn't know that you've not visited this page before. It's a sort of form that normally you'd only fill in once.
Yeah. So I'm gonna put the script there this time. But then here, I'm just going to try some different tactics for trying to make it bold. And then let's try header in Markdown. Like, what does anything render? Interestingly at all. And then in this next box, let's see if we can. Ooh, do you know what? Before I do anything else, because you've mentioned a few times now a back end. Let's go for this network tab. Let's see what actually happens when we submit it.
Yeah.
See if I can start discovering the API, because maybe the API has a different limit for some of these things. So let's go for Mixed character sets, Lauren Ipsum.
Lovely.
And let's go for... Oh, here we go. There is a format exploit. Go for broken HTML. Okay, submit your answers. Let's see what we get. Right, and if I go on to this first one and reveal them, so I just get that one. So that didn't do anything, and that's fine. Ooh, so there's some truncation going on there, so that's interesting. Because that was longer than a certain value. There's some automatic truncation.
That is by design to prevent it from wrapping. Like to prevent wrapping for real people with real long names, but whether it's desirable is for you to decide as a user.
If it's intentional, that's fine. I guess what would be really nice is if I hovered over it, it gave me the full thing, so I had a way to see it, or like some way to see the full thing. I guess, or if I clicked on the 3 dots, if it expanded. So it's just something to give me the full context. Okay.
Yeah. What I will say is there is also a length limit on that name as well, that is slightly longer than that length. I could see in my backend what it's actually stored.
Okay.
And it has stored, it's truncated it after the start of the closing tag for strong. So it's not got the whole closing tag. Oh, sorry, the closing tag for script. So it's actually truncated as well, but it's also then, so it's truncated in the database, but still the truncated value still doesn't quite fit in there.
Yes. Okay. Well, so that tells me a few things, and that is that depending on how it's truncating it, I wonder what we could do with anything that's a back end kind of attack on that. But first, I want to kind of discover this API a bit more. So we've got, so this get here is demo card 1. So I think I need to go back to the form to really see the fun there. So if I go back, okay, so that was interesting. Is I'm looking at this hide card button, show all button, and I was expecting this differently formatted button to be the back button, whereas actually the back button is like a card.
Yeah.
So
the back card is new because there was no way to get back without clicking the title. Navigation in general is something that needs to be looked at, and I'm seeing that.
yes.
Again, this is mostly because my primary usage so far has been the one running the retro, so I've been the one driving this during retro sessions. So it's kind of, it's only mattered that's me. It's me that's known the way around, but I can see where there needs to be some improvements.
Also, one thing that's interesting that might be nice is at the moment here, and we're zoomed in a bit as well. Oh no, we're not actually zoomed in anymore. One thing is like, so there are 3 cards here, right? One thing that really isn't obvious is just casually looking at this screen, I'm not reading any of it. It's not popping out to me to actually choose to read. I just see, oh, there are 3 cards. And I know if I was really paying attention to the retro, I'd probably be reading them. I'm not. But it makes it feel like I don't like after I filled out the form, now I'm like, oh, how does that form relate to these things? Like, I find it hard to actually relate to the 2 things.
There are some other things hidden in the admin. There's also, like, for example, there's the option to hide these cards on this page until the retro itself starts, so that you can actually end up back on this page that says "come back when the retro starts" or something. So this is kind of like a live preview of what's going on. But I get it. Like I've also toyed with the idea of almost getting rid of this page that you're seeing right now and just displaying all the cards on the homepage. So having the left column being the question cards, and then all the answers to that question. So you have just one page that has them all on.
Yes, I was just thinking, although I guess it depends how it might scale, because if you have a team of 15 people, that could be a lot of cards.
Yeah. Or something else, particularly with animations around, like on the homepage, if you go back.
Yeah, I just wanted to reveal the Oh, see, that renders really nicely. That worked with all of those font characters.
Yeah. Another option would be on that homepage to have, like, you click a card and like the deck of sub cards slides out, so you can expand, like having this one view. I don't know.
The
A lot of this site was built in what's the easiest way I can do this with a template.
oh yeah, nothing wrong with that. Sometimes the most important quality characteristic is, can I get to market?
Yeah.
That can be very important. That's don't overlook that as a genuine thing. Oh, and we've got these names displayed on this page as well, so that's interesting. We've got null, and so there's another place it's being rendered. But again, it's still not doing anything there either. So I guess, yeah, okay, that's good. So if we go back to complete the form a minute, what I was really hoping for is follow the API. Let's have a look if I can figure out where that gets submitted to. I'm just going to make this obvious. Card 1. The other thing I was thinking, just in terms of actually playing the game, because one thing we've not really done yet is have a go trying to do a retro. So maybe one interesting thing we could do as we wrap up, and or maybe as things reset, is do a little retro of this session and see
Yeah.
how we can actually make use of it to be a little bit more, try and use it for reals, to see what we get as users a bit. Because I'm just thinking for these, so two things. One is the scrolling for these cards. Like there's a lot of space over here that's not being used. And then you're scrolling down. But I guess it's because it's on I've got a fairly large screen, so having things side by side can be quite useful for me. So you might have the opportunity to let that flow a bit more.
This is an example where version 1 of this page was very much looking like a traditional form, where it was like a bold question and then a text box beneath it, and it felt very dry. And
Yes.
like I like that it matches the styling here, but you've just reflected on the fact that it's non-standard design. Like
Yeah.
it's not even those are literal text boxes on the right hand side there,
Yes.
but they're styled to look differently. Like normally you'd expect it to be like standard, non-bold, not Times New Roman, default web font.
I also quite like the idea of, as you fill in a card and you like maybe save it, that it writes it out as one sentence instead of, or that it makes it look more stylized, so it doesn't keep, like at the moment it still looks a bit like there's probably even more you could lean into this. The other thing, and I don't know if you've thought about this, is one of the beauties of the Cards Against Humanities when you're playing it is the serendipity of the clever things that they've chosen as pre-done cards. And I know it would be a whole load of effort, but rather than actually having to type in your own thing, having typing in your own thing as the last resort, but having a whole load of because a lot of these things people will have the same responses to all the time, and just being able to click the one that relates to you could streamline the whole thing so much.
Yeah. There's a whole separate section of course of like gamification, of like voting for what your favorite answer was, which is still to come. That's a version 3 thing. We're on version 2.1 right now.
Yes.
I have a roadmap past version 3.
Okay, so we have a post to submit. Let's see whether. Okay, so we've got a post to the URL submit that's on the same thing. So it's not on like a different URL on a different. I've not got like an obviously exposed whole separate website, like an API that looks really obviously like an API by being on a different place. I have a submit file name demos for submit. So that's interesting. Let's see what we can learn about this to see what's being sent and how. So let's have a look at the request. So we've got the request. Interestingly, so name, follow the, so we've got that being added. So let's have a look in raw. Okay, so that looks a lot like parameters. That payload. Which immediately is interesting because the one thing I haven't done is use an ampersand character or to try and mess with anything. So that could be an interesting to try in a moment. But it's not a JSON API. I guess I could have been asking you these things. So that looks much more like a URL encoder or like a form submission with parameters, but it doesn't mean we couldn't. So I wonder if, oh, interesting, strict origin when cross origin. So I'm wondering whether we can actually submit to that demo/submit at all if we. Oh, here we go. That's a submitted equals true. Interesting. So I'm wondering if we used a. So if I just do that, what do we actually get? Just in the browse, just nothing else. I don't know what you're looking for. It's like you were smiling because you knew I was about to get there. That's brilliant.
That's the generic 404 page. What I will say is you might have slightly more luck if you went to, because the URL is /demo, which is the name of your board. You've got /card/submit. I think /demo/submit. You can do a GET request to.
Okay, let's try that.
But I don't know what you'll see on it. I know it takes GET and accepts GET and it accepts post. Okay, so that is when you ask for it in the GET format, it gives you the page to fill the form out, and then when you do a post, it does a post request to the same URL.
Brilliant. So let me go back to this one where we submitted it. And let me submit again, because I think on this post, I think I can do, you might not be able to see this, but I can do this thing called edit and resend in Firefox.
Cool.
Without even having to use like a separate client or anything. So I should be able to change these things. So, let's see what options we have. URL prompter's name. Oh yeah, because I didn't put anything in, did I? URL prompter's name value. So what have we actually got? So let me go back to completing the form, and let me put stuff in. We're on the hour. I wonder if things have reset.
I can see that a cron job has run. I think if you go back to the board list, you'll just see Alice and Bob again now. Yeah, there we go. It's just
Alice
reset.
and Bob. Okay, so the reset works. That's cool. Pardon me. That must mean we're making good time, and we probably need to start wrapping up at some point soon. But let's have another. Are you good for about another 10 minutes, Neil? And
Not
then
a problem. Absolutely.
Let's have another 10 minutes, and then let's do some wrapping up. Oh, we're getting some feedback in the chat here from James. The hardest thing this week was the card that have HTML don't wrap looks like long word sentences with no spaces outside the boundaries. Perhaps we can go back and look at that one in a minute. I love having a write-in. Is that this one? The hardest thing this week was. Okay, we'll figure that one out. Anyway, some name. Let's see if using those.
Yeah.
Card one. See if that messes with anything, or if it gets stripped out. That could be fun. Let's submit that. Ooh, I clicked submit. Did that actually error? What happened there?
Did you click submit? I looked away.
I'd click submit. Let's try again. Submit your answers. Thank you for submitting. Okay, that worked. Okay, so let's go back.
Maybe you missed. That's when I'll watch back on the video. Definitely.
Yep. Thank you for submitting. Okay, so if I go back, are they still there? Yes, they are. That's interesting. So they are still in the browser. So I can click submit again, and they submit again. So let's look at this now in a bit more detail. So let's see what the values, see if any of that funkiness Oh, cool. So we can see this time that it's content form URL encoded. That makes sense. So here's the post request. There. Oh, it definitely did manage to wrap them in speech marks enough that it didn't care. Oh, so maybe speech marks is a thing.
Go for it. Yeah.
Let's try that. Let's try. Oh, but I was going to try resubmitting. Let's just try one more thing, and then I'll see if resending one will work. So, let's just try. So end it. Let's see if we can figure out how to format that. And then it would be an card2 equals not really card2. Let's try that. So let's have a look how that. Oh no, it did. Oh, interesting. So
Oh gosh, yeah.
It then used single quotes instead of double quotes because the I go to raw. Oh no, it totally just URL encoded them, right? So
Okay.
Not surprisingly, it just added all these. Okay, so I think that's not something I'm going to continue to dig on. That looks pretty.
It's a Firefox rendering issue more than
There might be a clever way to break URL encoding, but I'd have to look it up. It's not something I know off the top of my head. And it'd probably be a case of looking at, are there any known vulnerabilities for Flask in URL encoding or something like this? It's probably not it would be a known thing, and Flask is very known and standard and popular, so it seems unlikely it would be a out-the-box thing that's super full. But that's a good thing, because it passes that level of inspection, so that's one less thing you have to worry about. Let's see if we can do this edit and resend. Just going to try this once. So post to yes, URL parameters, name Dave. Oh wait, parameter name Dave, parameter card1. Let's try card4 because there is no card4. Equals card4.
I think these are going in as URL parameters rather than form parameters, but it'll be interesting to see what they
yeah,
do.
you're right. They probably are. So
Because it changed that URL above it.
that
So
they are.
is there somewhere else below the headers where you get to see the request body? There we go.
Yeah, this we do. So
Can we break this nice
name,
encoding? Can we unencode?
yeah, name equals some name. So here let's do name equals, pardon me, Neil, and card1. It's not card1, it's 1 equals. Let's just get rid of all of that. 1 equals 1. And 2 equals 2. And we're not going to do 3, we're going to do 5 equals 5. And I'm going to submit that and see what happens.
I literally just scribbled down a bug that I think you're going to reveal here. Let's have a look. See what happens. I can tell you what that will do when you send it.
I have sent it, and it didn't throw an error. I don't think. It just said thank you.
I'm going to put the database on my machine while you're
yes, exactly. So I wonder what it did on the database. So now, I guess we ought to. Well, I don't see the car, so let's see what number 3 looks like. Oh wow, there's lots of things we submitted.
I can tell you what you've done there.
God,
so those somewhat look the IDs that look somewhat sequential, like the 1, 2, 3. is the
Yes.
ID of that question in the database. Now, what you've just done there
Ah.
is you have answered a question that isn't on the board. So it's valid data as far as the database is concerned, because there is a question 5. It's just you will never be able to see the answer to it on that board because that question 5 isn't on your board. So it's in the database.
Ooh.
That feels like something I should protect against, or at least scrub, so that you're not answering arbitrary questions.
It does. And let me try one more thing, which is, if that's this is where maybe we have an SQL injection possibility, because now if I do an instead of 1 equals, is there a field I shouldn't have access to? Let's try that again. So so we've already set name once. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. This is where not having knowledge of the database means I probably can't do much interesting without
I was
having
going to say
recon of the
this
database.
is where white box says I could show you the code right now, and you could probably design something that would break. But that's the benefit of some sort of independent black box versus white box testing. But
Yeah, it is. Let me just try something. Let's try a card that might be out of index just to try it.
yeah,
Equals ha ha ha. Just see if it actually managed to break. Aha! It did actually break it. We actually have a 500 error.
interesting. Let me look in the application log and see. I was going to hope you'd get away with that. Let's see why it hasn't got away with it. Key. The error in the logs is key question ID equals 9999 is not present in the table questions. So at somewhere along the lines, we're checking to see if that is a valid ID. So that's interesting. It kind of like a silent error isn't brilliant, but there is a check in there. It checks to see if the question exists. It doesn't check to see if the question is on that board. There's at least a gap.
And we could end up with. I'm not a great expert at SQL injection attacks, but it's like star from. I don't know if that'll have done anything fun. Point is, we could start throwing loads more crap at that, and that's a
Yeah,
whole.
it's
It didn't like that much, I guess.
it is still complaining about the question ID, and actually the reason it's complaining is there's a again getting into SQL. There's a foreign key relationship in there where it checks that it can find a question that it relates it to. So I think some custom error handling in there, full stop, would be better rather than just relying on database constraints to catch errors, which then don't get surfaced very well to the users. So that's really beneficial. Thank you. And I'm going to take a timestamp of this one because I'm not going to try and write that all down. I'm just going to watch the video back later and catch what's going on here.
Absolutely. So that was a lot of fun. We really found something there. That was kind of cool. I like that a lot.
Yeah, I had expected it was going to be, oh, there's a number. Yeah, we'll blindly store that in the database too. But no, there's a foreign key constraint on that one.
And now you know. So that's cool. Right. Before we finish and move on to retroing our session, having a little bit of a feedback moment because I want to learn from this so that I can improve for the next time I do one of these type of streams. Is there, for the last couple of minutes, is there anything I haven't had a look at yet that you'd really like me to have a quick play
Yes.
with? Do you want to
Yes.
direct me to something?
So on that form, when you fill out to answer the questions, you'll
Yes.
have seen there's a character count limit on those questions to restrict you to 100. That is a really, really naive implementation. I would like to see if you can bypass that through any means necessary. And what happens if you try and submit more than 100 characters? Because we've seen it doing some truncation elsewhere.
Yeah.
I'm not sure what it does because again, I got ChatGPT to say, well, just limit it to 100 characters, and there might just be some horrible fallout if you get past it.
Brilliant. Okay, so what I'm actually going to do then is I'm going to see if I can get... Let's get some emojis going. So I'm just going to copy an emoji. Oh no, I didn't copy an emoji in the end. that failed miserably.
They got you to 100 characters quicker.
It did get you 100 characters quickly. So actually, what I'm going to do then is I'm going to do this. Where did this resubmission thing go? Big. So let's try this actually via the. So I didn't manage to. Do you know what I could? Do you know what I've got a better idea. First, before I do anything else, inspect. I wonder if there's a. Here we go. You see how there's this on input. There's a max length, and there's this on input blah. I'm just going to delete that.
Yep.
And I'm going to say 999 on there, because I can just edit that. And then I'm going to just... Let's just see how many times we can copy that in. Oh, so it's still... Is that the same field? Yes. Soft wrap text field. I'm going to resize it so I can see more. Okay, that looks like way more than 100.
Yeah.
But it does still have a limit somewhere. Oh, because I limited it to
999.
Okay, well, let's just do that.
Is it worth putting a character on the end just so you know, like put an X on the end or something? That's the last time, just so you
yes, let's put some X's on the end and some X's on the beginning, just to make it easier to find. Okay.
Now, your guess is as good as mine. I know this is a Postgres database and it's declared as like a string type. I don't think it has a max length restriction on the database. I'd be interested to see if it falls down somewhere along the stack.
So I think that would have a max limit. So please fill in name. Long cards. Okay, so let's find Mr. Longcard's answer.
It's going to look
One,
interesting when
wasn't it?
Yeah, when you render it, it'll look interesting. That's for sure.
We need to find it. There it is.
There it is.
Okay, so it has worked and it has overflowed, but it's actually not as ridiculous as you. So it definitely goes on. Let's have a look if it actually truncates it. It is truncating it. So actually, at some point,
yes,
that has actually been truncated.
I can tell you it hasn't truncated in the database. So there is a front-end rendering where when it prints it back, it will truncate. It has not truncated in the database, which again, you were kind enough to cap that at 999. I bet interesting things might happen if you were to make that limitless or 50,000 or something. But I also know I pay for this database per storage, so I'm not going to encourage you to do that. And actually, maybe what I take away is I should enforce the database constraint somewhere before someone sends me a huge bill.
Okay, so a few people. On the chat, this is great because we have viewers. They're saying it's gone blank. They can't see what's going on. Back now. Okay, so whatever it was that was going on there, it was temporarily. We couldn't see what was going on. Great, it's back. I love that it's back. Oh, we have. Do you know, Neil? We are up to 8 viewers, which is amazing. So before we go any further, I just want to thank everyone who is watching, and this really is my very first time streaming on this channel, and you are my very first guest, Neil. Thank you very much for joining me, and I have all sorts of things I want to do, but no brilliant plan or fancy things. I'm just giving it a go. So thank you to everyone who just rocked up with my very minimal advertising of almost nothing with almost no detail. You did not know what you were getting yourselves in for, so I really appreciate that.
And thank you, Ben. You made this really easy for me. I just had to join a link. If anyone on the stream would like to do some testing of their own, feel free to test this demo board like Ben has. It does reset once an hour. If you'd like to do some longer term testing of your own, then reach out to me and I can set you up with your own link that's like /your name, and you can do what you like. You can use it for real retros. You can try and break it, and I'll make it so it doesn't reset for your board. Like if you want to have a go at it, the feedback is much appreciated.
Cool. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen for a moment, and let's wrap up by having just a little bit of I'm not going to use the full retros against mundanity, although that would be very cool. Just a little bit of I don't think that's sharing as well as it was a moment ago. Bear with me. Still learning. There we go. We're back. We're back. Let's set it up so people can see both of us. Good. They should be able to see both of us. So Neil, how did that go for you? I'd love to know a little bit about what you felt was good, what went well, and if you have any comments or suggestions on things I could improve in the future.
With my in terms of the session itself and the things that I was setting out to do, with my developer's hat on, this has really reinforced some of my thoughts about the usage of AI. And actually with my tester hat on as well, I've got half a developer hat, half a tester hat on. This whole thing of there were so many points where we got to there where you asked me what something was going to do, or I saw you trying to do something and I didn't know what it was going to do because I hadn't written the code. And when you're not able to succinctly say, here's some code I've written and this is what it does, that can create a problem for you in larger systems. And that really reinforced it here, where I was like, I have no idea if that's going to work. It might do. If it does, it's luck. And that's not a great position to feel like you're in quality-wise. But as a session, I really enjoyed that. I really enjoyed having access to you as a tester and wearing my various different hats. So thank you, Ben.
You're very welcome, Neil. So I really enjoyed the session. I am very grateful, Neil, for your how laid back you could be with me testing your code when you didn't know what was going to happen. You were very brave, opening yourself up to myself and to the internet and just going with the flow. That was very good. And
if it held together, I would have said I wrote it. If it didn't, I'd say AI's fault.
Good caveat. I like that. I like that a lot. And I think we managed to cover a fair amount. I enjoyed our short conversation at the beginning about what it was and what it did. What it really made me realize is I really appreciate, in a professional context, when we have all the kind of material and thinking that goes into things before we build them around architecture diagrams and the plans of the stories and the expected user journeys, like all that kind of surrounding detail that takes actually a long time and a lot of work to prepare to get right, so that you have an idea of what the thing is supposed to do before you start testing what it's doing and before you start writing the code for what it's doing. And you don't get that for free. So I kind of want to shout out to all the designers and developers and architects and senior engineers out there who put all that work in up front to know what things are going to do ahead of time, because that actually is not a trivial thing. And I know from my own kind of side projects or hobby projects that working that bit out is a lot of fun, but I just want to get going. I want to build something, and I often don't afford myself the time to spend nearly enough time figuring out ahead of time what it's supposed to be or whether it's supposed to, do a certain thing. So
I run a lot of projects at work, teaching people to get into software development and testing, and we quite frequently have 1 week and 2 week projects. And I will tell people, if you're writing code on your first day, you've not thought about this well enough yet. Like the planning will always pay off.
Absolutely. Well, I really enjoyed that. I think I'm going to call it an evening there. So thank you very much, Neil, for being my first guest.
Pleasure.
You are welcome back anytime, because that was an absolute pleasure. We can test more on this maybe another time, or there are some other topics I'd like to cover.
Absolutely. Love to.
If there's anyone on the call who would like to join me on one of these streams in the future, feel free to message me. LinkedIn is probably the easiest place where you can find me, Ben Dowen on LinkedIn. And I guess I should say the thing, shouldn't I? Please like and subscribe. You've got to say that's like, yeah, we've got to point to things or something. And,
Alexa, subscribe to Ben Dowen's YouTube channel.
Love it. Thank you very much. So yeah, I I'm starting this as a thing. I hope to do some more streams in the future. I'm hoping in the future I can get a few people to join me. Some of you may know that I'm really interested in writing test automation and also doing like coding exercise and coding interview challenges and trying all that kind of train of thought. So if anyone wants to join me, I've got a few people lined up already. But if anyone does want to join me doing one of these sessions, testing something together or trying to do a challenge together, I will try and schedule some more in. I don't have a next thing booked in, so I can't plug exactly the next thing. Um, but yeah, thank you all very much for watching. And if anyone has any feedback for me as well, please do let me know. Thank you very, very much for everyone who joined in on the chat, and thank you very much, James, for your detail on finding the bug in the background that I've not spent time talking about, but I will forward to you, Neil.
Thank you.
That's this overflow bug about the hardest thing. Oh, I see. Yes, okay. I'll forward that on to you. James has kindly sent a message, so that's very cool.
Much appreciated. Thank you.
Yeah, right. See you later.